House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 4 has finally arrived, and this time, the Dance of the Dragons has literally begun. This highly anticipated episode brought us one of the most intense and dramatic sequences we have seen so far, the Battle of Rook's Rest. It's safe to say that the craziest moment of the episode was that clash at Rook's Rest, resulting in the tragic deaths of Rhaenys and Meleys and serious injuries to Aegon and Sunfire. While the scene was mostly faithful to the book Fire and Blood, the showrunners added layers of depth to both the events and characters. And perhaps the most shocking twist came with the revelation that Aemond deliberately attacked his own brother Aegon. At first, we see Aemond flying in as Aegon battles Rhaenys, seemingly to aid his brother. However, he unexpectedly breathes fire on his brother instead. And even in the next scene, he is caught by Sir Criston with his sword out, about to finish off his seriously wounded brother. And understandably, this act has divided fans in two, because some find it extreme for Aemond to commit such a despicable deed, while the others argue that his character was predisposed to such behavior from the very beginning. Especially in the book, Aemond is portrayed as an impulsive and wild second son, harboring a clear distaste for his brother. Deep down, he's still dealing with the scars of the past bullyings, and he has a desperate need for validation. But for all his flaws, he seems fiercely loyal to his family, or at least to Targaryen legacy. And perhaps he's the most dutiful one when it comes to the family matters.
Shit, what they say.
My brother at least knows his place. He's as loyal as a hound. I can set him and his dragon on my foes at will.
While that being the case, even if he thinks his brother doesn't deserve the throne, or even if he's holding onto resentment from years of being mocked, for many people it doesn't make sense that he would try to kill him in the middle of a battle. I mean, I get his feelings for Aegon, but even for him, aiming at Aegon and Sunfire seems like a pretty dumb move. Because first of all, Aegon is the face of the Greens. He wears the Conqueror's crown, bears his name, and most of the houses support the Greens because of that, and Aemond knows this. Aegon also has the legitimacy of being the eldest and the sympathy of losing his son, while Aemond is a known kinslayer and reminds everyone of Daemon, someone you wouldn't trust with the realm. Secondly, when they're already outnumbered by the Blacks in terms of dragons, losing Sunfire would seriously weaken them, even though Aemond managed to kill Rhaenys and her dragon. But Aemond doesn't seem to realize this, or at least doesn't care. And honestly, I've always thought his character has been built up to seem smarter than that. And remember how guilty he felt about killing Luke just a few episodes ago? That moment made him seem so much more human.
I do regret that business with Luke. I lost my temper that day. I am sorry for it.
I am glad to hear it.
They used to tease me, you know. Because I was different.
So, if they have him kill his own brother just to be the king, they risk turning him into a cartoonish villain. And honestly, that's not what we've seen so far. So, if we really want to be sure, is there any real evidence that Aemond would actually try to kill his brother? Or is this just a way to create drama between the characters? Like a lot of things in Fire and Blood, I think this one's a head-scratcher too. Because George Martin deliberately wrote it like a history book, with unreliable narrators and lots of room for interpretation. There's no all-knowing narrator, and some gaps are left unfilled. So both the show and the book are inherently controversial, and this makes it almost impossible to say for sure what Aemond's intentions are. But still, there are some facts we do know for certain. In the battle at the Rook's Rest, 3 dragons met. Rhaenys and her dragon were killed, and Aegon and his dragon were badly hurt. And after the battle, Aemond became the Prince Regent. He even put Aegon's crown on his head and said that it looked better on himself than it ever did on Aegon. And I think that's a quote worth pondering. I mean, I know, it doesn't fully explain why Aemond wanted to kill his brother, because just like Aemond do, we already know that he could have been a better king, or at the very least, he could have made bolder decisions, been more strategic. But isn't it possible that deep down Aemond was hoping for something to happen to Aegon? Especially with Aegon's son dead and Aemond next in line for the throne, maybe he was waiting for a chance to take power. But this whole thing also raises some other serious questions. Was Aemond really all about power, even over his own family? Was his ambition so intense that he would sacrifice his own brother? I believe if we really understand Aemond's perspective and what he's been through, maybe we can start to understand his actions better. After all, Aemond knows that Aegon has always been the feckless one. He knows that he spent his whole life drinking, fooling around, and making kids fight each other for fun. He never even wanted to be king until the crown was on his head. He didn't bother learning how to fight, how to be strategic, or even High Valyrian, as we saw in this episode. On the other hand, Aemond was the opposite. He became one of the best fighters in the realm, and as he said himself, he worked hard to be good at everything a king should be.
It is I, the younger brother, who studies history and philosophy. It is I who trains with the sword, who rides the largest dragon in the world. It is I who should be...
And while doing all that, he never failed his family's expectations. Even as a little kid, he was ready to marry his own sister to do his duty.
She's our sister.
You marry her then.
I would perform my duty, if Mother had only betrothed us.
If only.
It would strengthen the family, keep our Valyrian blood pure.
She's an idiot.
She's your future queen.
And even when he agreed to marry Lord Boros's daughter, it was all about gaining an ally for his family. Because unlike his brother, he knew that nothing in life was free. It was a brutal lesson he learned in Driftmark when he claimed Vhagar at the cost of an eye. He knew he had to fight for everything because he was a second son who has nothing to inherit. So maybe all those years of injustice, being overshadowed and mocked by his drunk of a brother, fueled a hidden rage in Aemond. But don't get me wrong, it wasn't just about hating Aegon. It's the way the world works that Aemond hates. A world where the lucky few get everything while the rest have to claw their way up. And in the battle at Rook's Rest, for the first time in his life, everything he's ever wanted was finally within his grasp. So from this perspective, I think it gives us a better understanding of what motivates him most of the time. But personally, I don't think any of this excuses Aemond's actions. Because even though the book doesn't explicitly say that he tried to kill his brother, Aemond commits other heinous deeds. He deserves everything they say to him and faces the consequences. But like many characters in the world of Westeros, he has also his inner demons and a conflicted heart. So in my opinion, to simply call him a monster would be ignoring his moments of vulnerability and regret, and also missing the nuance of George Martin's writing about the human heart in conflict with itself. When we look at Aemond, we should remember the insecure kid he once was, bullied and cast aside by those around him. We should remember that little boy managed to change his circumstances with his will. No one expected him to rise to such influence. But as his power grew, so did the darkness within him. His long-standing insecurities began to manifest in more darker, more sinister ways. But at the end of the day, he has always been that second son of a king, a prince who has nothing to inherit, in a world where inheritance means a lot. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a comment, give a like, and click to subscribe. Your support will greatly help the mysterious algorithm notices me. And if you want to support me personally, you can join the channel by using the join button. See you next time.